Ahsoka Tano was the Padawan of the Chosen One Anakin Skywalker. Anakin was proud to call Ahsoka his Padawan, and Ahsoka was proud to have Anakin as her master. However, Ahsoka still had insecurities, which upon the planet of Mortis, the dark side entity called the Sun preyed upon. The Sun corrupted Ahsoka to the dark side, before the daughter used Anakin to drain the darkness from Ahsoka. But what if the Sun had continued to corrupt Ahsoka? What if Ahsoka turned to the dark side? How would this change Star Wars history? As you're about to see, a lot changes. As Anakin approaches Ahsoka at the altar of Mortis, the Sun gives Anakin an ultimatum. Anakin would join the Sun and live, or be forced to kill Ahsoka. As Anakin refuses to kill Ahsoka, Ahsoka attacks him and Obi-Wan, using her dark side powers given by the Sun. The duo are able to fend her off comfortably, as they use their superior skill, but were Ahsoka to get used to her new powers, they would have struggled. However, the battle is not over, as Ahsoka, in a frenzy, kills the Sun after snatching the dagger of Mortis from him. With the daughter and father still being alive, Ahsoka is now the entity of darkness required to balance the Force, gaining all of the Sun's power. Anakin and Obi-Wan have no choice but to leave Ahsoka behind, as they risk either getting killed or killing her. But as the duo exit the atmosphere, they fail to remember any of the events that have taken place, given time did not exist on Mortis. Ahsoka, meanwhile, has sneaked onto the back of the ship and is sitting amongst the cargo, reveling in her new powers. With the dagger of Mortis safely tucked away, she was now invincible. But what could she do with so much power? For now, she would pretend to be the same Padawan as before, but hide her darkness. Walking back into the cockpit as she normally would, she sat down next to her former master, as he talked to Captain Rex. She now found the war to be amusing, knowing it was merely the work of the Sith manipulating the feeble Jedi. But Ahsoka was above the Sith or the Jedi, and soon there would only be darkness. As the trio rendezvous back to Coruscant, Anakin is greeted by Chancellor Palpatine, who asks to meet him in his office. Ahsoka's face transforms into a feral grin as she joins the duo in his office. To Anakin's surprise, Ahsoka asks to speak with the Chancellor alone, as Anakin heads back to the Jedi Temple. Ahsoka sits in the chair opposite very casually, as she summons one of Palpatine's secret red lightsabers he had hidden, and twirled it around her fingers, encouraging Palpatine to attack her. Sidious closed the blinds, as he summoned his lightsaber from Ahsoka's, and the one from the sleeve of his cloak. He hid his surprise at Skywalker's Padawan discovering his secret, as he knew he had to eliminate any loose ends. Sidious attacked Ahsoka, thinking he could eliminate her quickly. But he's even further surprised, as Ahsoka raised her hand and summoned red force lightning at Sidious as he stumbled back into his chair. This angered Sidious, and he used his own pure white force lightning at Ahsoka, but to no avail, as Ahsoka nonchalantly sidestepped the attack and used her powers to throw Sidious around the room. As Ahsoka finally stopped her assault, Sidious used his lightsabers to make a hole in the window, before tumbling into the streets below, contemplating what had just happened. Surely Skywalker had not taught his Padawan such dark side powers. Even Sidious himself could not conjure such red force lightning. Contacting Dooku, this was a development that could undo all of his years of manipulation. Ahsoka, meanwhile, transforms back into her old self, as she contacts Anakin, telling him to report back to the Chancellor's office immediately. Anakin rushes over, and he sees the Chancellor's office is in disarray. Ahsoka tells him how the Chancellor had been a Sith Lord, and attacked Ahsoka with his lightsabers, before jumping out of the window. Anakin was slightly suspicious of Ahsoka, not believing that his mentor could be a Sith, but he could sense that his Padawan was not lying to him. As Anakin and Ahsoka reported back to the Jedi Council, Ahsoka was restraining herself from wiping out all of the Council members with one single attack. As the Council deliberated on the next move, Ahsoka was considering how she could destroy all light side and dark side users at once, leaving her as the sole entity of darkness in the galaxy. Ahsoka was pleased with the latest turn of events. The Council had decided that the Jedi should split up in their quest to look for Darth Sidious. Ahsoka thought this would lead to the light side and dark side users eliminating each other, without any of her efforts. Yet Ahsoka sensed a lack of fulfillment in letting the others do the work. Disobeying her master's orders, Ahsoka jumped into her starfighter, left Coruscant, and headed to the planet of Sereno, where she could sense a darkness hanging over it. Landing on a ledge beside a cliff face, she could make out the distinctive figure of Count Dooku, training a group of robed figures. Ahsoka laughed as she watched over the figures performing basic lightsaber routines, her laugh echoing across the whole planet. Dooku and the figures turn around, as Ahsoka gently floats down and greets them. Dooku has heard reports of Skywalker's Padawan being immensely powerful from his master, but as she stood in front of him, he couldn't sense anything special. Dooku decided the best thing to do would be to test Ahsoka's abilities, and summoned a small bolt of force lightning, seeing how she would react. As Ahsoka deflected the bolt with ease, she smirked, as she had had enough of the games, and let out a huge force wave, toppling all of the surrounding force users. Dooku got up, and refocused, ignited his red blade, and along with the remaining assassins, moved menacingly towards Ahsoka. Ahsoka didn't even bother to ignite her blades, as she raised her hand, and instantly cracked the spines of all of the assassins, killing them instantly, and leaving only Dooku. Dooku was intelligent, and knew when he could not win a battle. Distracting Ahsoka by throwing some of the bodies of the assassins, he took off into space with his shuttle, knowing that his master had been correct. Anakin, meanwhile, had been flying across the galaxy upon the Council's request, looking for the mysterious Sith Lord, who had turned out to be his close mentor, Chancellor Palpatine. Suddenly, he sees the distinctive silhouette of Dooku's solar sailor ship. Pursuing it, he sees that Dooku is escaping with immense speed and agility. But what from? Anakin thought to himself. As Dooku vanished into hyperspace, Anakin asked his trusty droid R2-D2 to bring up the star chart. He was approaching the planet of Sereno. Entering the atmosphere, he could detect the distinctive force signature of his Padawan. What was Ahsoka doing here? Anakin thought to himself again. This was another unusually reckless move from his usually level-headed Padawan. Anakin landed beside Ahsoka, who was looking slightly sheepish, and got out of the ship, asking Ahsoka what she was doing on Sereno, when his orders were for her to stay at the Jedi Temple. Ahsoka merely stated that she had sensed through the Force that Sereno was important to revealing the location of Sidious, and avoided talking about the bodies. With Anakin looking at Ahsoka suspiciously, they ventured inside the fortress of Dooku. The fortress was similar to the layout of the Jedi Temple. However, Anakin managed to locate an underground crypt. Entering it, the duo scanned the area for traps, and eventually found a holocron with Sidious's figure, informing Dooku how him, Dooku, and Grievous would infiltrate the Jedi Temple on Coruscant. This was perfect for Ahsoka, as the Jedi and Sith would eliminate each other. The duo quickly contacted the Jedi Council, telling them all to reconvene back to Coruscant. As they eventually land in the Jedi Temple hangar, they see the figure of Mace Windu running to them, asking them to head back to the Jedi Council chambers again. With a quick meeting, the Jedi Council decide on their strategy. They decided to split up, with Yoda and Mace Windu leading a squadron of clones to one wing, and Plo Koon in disguise leading an aerial squadron. Other Jedi Council members, Masters, and Knights were divided to cover other areas of Coruscant according to their resources. Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Ahsoka were designated to track down Count Dooku, with them having experience of encountering the Sith Lord. All other Jedi were to alert the Council members, were they to spot any of the dark side users. The sky overhead darkened as the Separatist ships entered the atmosphere of the planet, moving to the sector protected by Yoda and Mace Windu. With the two most experienced swordsmen in the Jedi Order occupied, Dooku and Sidious hid in the shadows, trying to surprise the Jedi. Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Ahsoka had managed to track down the Kaleesh warrior General Grievous, who had already decapitated several Jedi Masters. Anakin was wary of Ahsoka facing such a formidable lightsaber duelist. He needn't have worried. As Obi-Wan absorbed Grievous's attack with his impeccable Surisu defense, Ahsoka knew now was the time to show her new powers. Dismissing Obi-Wan with a gentle force push, Ahsoka ignited her now crimson red blades, shocking Anakin not only with its colour, but also its intensity. Ahsoka moved at a speed unmatched by any Force user as she pressed a struggling Grievous, as Obi-Wan and Anakin watched in a mix of admiration and horror. Anakin knew Ahsoka was a talented duelist. This was far beyond anything he had ever seen from her. It did not take long for Ahsoka to sever all of Grievous's limbs, as the cyborg looked for an escape. Ahsoka smirked as she deactivated her lightsabers. Raising her hand, she lifted the body of Grievous, before crushing it into mere dust, pocketing the lightsabers he had collected from the previous Jedi. Getting over the initial shock, Obi-Wan and Anakin begin to interrogate Ahsoka on firstly, where she had obtained her red lightsabers, and secondly, where that sudden surge of power had arrived from. Ahsoka merely smiled, as she swiftly moved to the direction of Sidious and Dooku, who were now in Yoda and Mace Windu's sector. Everything was proceeding as Sidious had foreseen, as he had managed to distract Yoda and Windu with Dooku's droids, whilst he had disposed many of the Jedi. Now all he hoped was the Togruta he had faced in his office was not here. As Ahsoka approached Sidious, she let out a laugh. She could sense the fear in his eyes, and he would pay for it with his life. As Sidious turned his head, he saw the Togruta he did not wish to face. Dooku adopted his trademark Makashi stance, whereas Sidious focused all of his hatred. The clouds overhead darkened even further, as all ships were engulfed in a massive force storm summoned by Sidious, creating a hyperspace wormhole. Yoda and Mace Windu staggered to their feet, having initially been stunned by the velocity of the storm. Ahsoka was mildly impressed at Sidious's efforts, but with a flick of her wrist, reduced the 100-meter wide force storm to a mere 1 meter, and redirected it towards Sidious and Dooku, who were immediately consumed by the vortices of force energy and turned into nothing. Before Anakin could intervene, Ahsoka levitated onto a nearby building and declared herself to be Lady Ashla, Daughter of the Dark, as her dark cloak billowed in the wind. The Ahsoka that Anakin had taught was no more. This was a different creature. Somehow, Anakin had to free Ahsoka from the darkness, or lose her forever. With Ahsoka starting to sweep all life away from Coruscant, Anakin sprinted off to the Jedi Temple, with Obi-Wan in pursuit, as Yoda and Mace Windu were tended to by nearby clones. Fortunately, the temple was one of the few buildings left on Coruscant that was still standing, and the duo made their way towards Anakin and Ahsoka's quarters, hoping for any clues. Eventually searching Ahsoka's wardrobe, Anakin finds Ahsoka's Jedi attire. But oddly, it was heavy. Shaking it out, he finds a dagger. He did not need the Force to tell him what the dagger was for. Perhaps Mortis had not been a vision, rather a warning about the future. Sprinting back outside, the duo see piles of bodies from droids to clones who have been swept away by Ahsoka's power. Anakin climbs up the building Ahsoka is standing on, as Obi-Wan distracts Ahsoka with the help of some clones. Reaching the rooftop of the building, Anakin knows what he has to do to free Ahsoka. He had seen it in his vision. Enhancing his speed with the Force, Anakin plunges the dagger into the back of Ahsoka, stopping the Force wave of destruction and returning Ahsoka's eyes back from their yellow. The blood now started to flow from Ahsoka's back, so Anakin smoothly jumped off the building and ran to the nearby medical bay, where medical droids tended to her. As the distraught Anakin waited for an update on Ahsoka's condition, he knew whatever happened, Ahsoka was his Padawan once more. That is it for this miniseries of What If Ahsoka Turned to the Dark Side. I decided to leave the fate of Ahsoka to your imagination for a bit of a different ending. Please like this video and subscribe for more tips, and as always, leave a comment on what if you'd like to see next. Thank you very much for watching, and see you next time.